Her motivation for saying it, y'all, that means, so now we're just starting the chapter 2 questions. That just means what would have caused her to say it. What was it that made her turn around to him and say, take your feet off my chair and shut your trap? Yes, he was saying inappropriate things. He wouldn't leave her alone. So now these should be on the back of yesterday's chapter 1 questions, okay? I'm going to make it short and simple. Dally wouldn't leave her alone. What are these, excuse me, what do these words reveal about the speaker? This goes along with a learning target we've had before, where it talks about how the dialogue reveals something to us. So when she turns around and says, take your feet off my chair and shut your trap, what's that tell us about her? Yeah, and if she's going to talk to Dally like that, you know, she's a soch. Here he is a greaser, a hoodlum. So what does that tell us about Cherry? She's not scared. She's going to speak her mind, and she doesn't care who it is. Okay? Shh. Okay, so they're giving us the evidence, or one piece of evidence from page 24. Ponyboy says, you just didn't tell Dally Winston what to do. Okay, that's a quote. So it's asking us for evidence that shows he was upset when Johnny told him to leave Cherry alone. Okay, if you don't remember, look back at page 24. But can anybody remember what Dally does that kind of shows us? He doesn't like yell at Johnny or anything, but do you remember what he does that shows us he's kind of upset that Johnny was like, leave her alone? If you don't know, then you need to go find the evidence on page 24. This is what it means to go find your textual evidence. You're citing it, you're pointing it out. Do you remember one thing, Ethan? He storms off. He what? He scowled for a second. Y'all know what a scowl is? Yeah, and it's kind of like a really ugly look. Like, I can't believe you said that to me. But because he's the one I care about, I'm not going to do anything. Okay, it's kind of like a mad look that you get when you can't really say what you want to say. Anything else? He was kind of shocked. He was just kind of, he looked at him first like in disbelief because nobody could believe he stood up to him. What? And then he scowls and he storms off. Okay? I need you people to write this down, not talk to your buddy when my back is turned. Am I spelling scowls right? I've never spelled it. Okay. I will see. It's hard to see. He kind of scowls at all of them. The girls, Ponyboy and Johnny. And then he storms off. He puts his hands in his pockets. Storms off. Mad. You know how when you get mad at somebody and you just stomp off? That's kind of what that means. Can you see it better when it's like
yes.
that?
Yes.
Okay, so now we've got a cause-effect question. Why does Two Bits say this? So that means what causes him to say it. Dally deserves whatever he gets if Tim Shepard fights it. So there's Tim Shepard, remember, is one of those other gangs, but they're not socias. They're actually very much like the Greasers. And even though they might all fight, they'll also help each other out in the fight. And Dally did something that makes Two Bits say, well, Dally gets whatever, deserves whatever he gets if Tim Shepard decides to fight. Yes, Dally slashes his tires. And really for no reason. And that's why Two Bits he just went around slashing his tires. If they fight, then he deserves it. So the cause is Dally slashing the tires. The effect is that statement that Two Bit makes. Right? Okay, does everyone have what's up here at the top? Can I move it up a little bit? Okay, so this has to do with characterization, focusing on our characters. Ponyboy realizes that Cherry and Marcia weren't alike. He says this on page 30. In your own words, explain Ponyboy's reasoning for this claim. So, even though they're both socias, okay, he says that Cherry and Marcia are not alike. So I want y'all to turn to page 30. I'm going to turn to page 32. 30 meaning not number 32, but 30 as well. All right, well, hold on. I want us to get used to looking for our evidence. So I'm also turning to page 30. So I want to see y'all turn to page 30. I'm probably going to skip my glasses. So we're looking for why he's saying Cherry and Marcia are not alike. Blake found it, Paris found it, Ethan knows, anybody else? Tara, Sky, Trinity, Trenton, awesome. All right. Blake, can you tell me just one thing? Okay. Paris, do you want to add to that? That's what you were going to say? Anybody else? Ethan?
Marcia's more lighthearted.
Okay. Okay. Good. Anybody else? The exact words. Cherry and Marcia shook their heads at his offering of cigarettes, but Johnny and I reached for one. Sorry. A couple paragraphs down. I realized that Marcia and Cherry weren't alike. Cherry had said she wouldn't drink Dally's Coke if she was starving, and she meant it. It was the principle of the thing. But Marcia saw no reason to throw away perfectly good free Coke. Okay, so yeah, Marcia's like, it's free Coke, I'm going to drink it, I don't care who gives it to me. And Cherry's like, it came from Dallas Winston. I wouldn't care if it's the last thing I had. I am not going to drink that Coke. Okay, very good. Which is basically proves what Ethan was saying. Marcia's a little more kind of carefree, doesn't really care, whereas Cherry's going to be like, I said it and I meant it. Okay? Okay, so we get a little practice with a summary, very short summary, at the bottom of the page. This goes to that flashback where we get a description of when Johnny got beaten up by the Socias. Okay? So we're given this quote from page 32. His white t-shirt was splattered with blood. I just stood there, trembling with sudden cold. I thought he might be dead. Surely nobody could be beaten like that and live. Okay? Letting us know how bad of a beating Johnny got by those Socias. Alright? So, we're asked, y'all, for just 3 sentences that summarize what happened that's connected to that passage. If you need to turn to page 32, you can. But remember, a summary, you want just main points. So if you turn back to page 32 and look at the description of when Johnny gets beaten up, we just need to pick out the 3 main points that have to do with this particular quote. Okay? So we're not going to put word for word what comes out of the book. That's evidence. We're going to be summarizing. We're picking main points. Read back through it, just think, okay, that'd probably be something important I would put in a summary. That would be important. We've practiced this with scope before, when they give us a summary and tell us to pick out the sentences we really don't need, you know. So we don't want every detail. We want the main things associated with this. I'm going to let y'all kind of think about it. Jot down your ideas, but I want y'all to share with me, okay? And if you have to go, back in front of this quote a little bit, before this quote, and a little bit after that quote, you can. It doesn't have to be just this quote. I don't have a whole lot of light back there. Okay. Anybody want to share what you think would be some of the main events connected to this passage? What's one main event you think, Sal?
Where it was like explaining what all happened to him, like what he looked like.
Okay. The description of Johnny after the beating. Okay. Cabria, what else? Would be maybe a main event associated with this. Okay, so that was like, the main point of that is the boys are like, we've seen him beaten up before by his dad. This was way worse. Kate, you got something?
Like the way he was laying there when they walked up, like how he wasn't moving and he looked like something
Very good. Anybody else got something? Trenton? Good. Trinity, what'd you put?
I just put series of events.
Okay, well tell me what you put. Tell me those series of events.
I put that John was walking along and a blue light switch pulled up and so she came on it and he said you're pretty happy.
Good. So she took the main events that led up to this and she put, he was walking home alone, the Mustang pulled up, the Socias got out and beat him. Maybe put this something that just remember, they will target these greasers when they're alone. Okay? You don't see them being brave one or two socias going after a whole group of greasers. You know, they're going to wait for somebody's alone so they can win the fight. And do they fight fairly? No, they do not. Okay? Like greasers, I think we talked about this yesterday. If both people in the fight have a knife, then it's fair fight. If you're fighting like fist to fist, and that, it's fair fight. You know, so that as long as it's the same on both sides. The socias, they don't fight that way. Okay? All right, good job. So, I'm sorry, fixing a mouse. Okay, and let's remember, just a reminder, this flashback, Ponyboy was actually telling Cherry about when Johnny got beaten. Okay, so he was letting her know how bad it was. All right. I think I'm going to do Trinity's series of events just because that's a good summary. Everything was good that y'all put. I'm just going to put your series of events. But there are different ways you can summarize, y'all. There's not always one right answer, okay? So, if I were to use like what Cabria had or what Kate had about like descriptions of his injuries, then I might pick like the 3 main things that it says about that. Okay? And you can summarize it that way. So, there are different ways to summarize just so that you're not given every single detail because then it's not a summary. Okay? As long as you're picking the main points, you're good. Alright? Summaries can be hard, I think. Or they were always hard for me to decide, okay, well what should I put in my summary? So as we start listening to chapter 3, I know I've been, putting the book up here, books that y'all have the book. I'm not going to do that because when I go back and forth between the recording and the book, it keeps blocking my videos for my recording because YouTube says it's a copyright thing. So, I'm not going to put the book up there. Hey. I'm good. She is. You sure can.